Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul Channel, and I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expressions of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And some people I thank have inspired me. I hope they can inspire you as well. And I will have links below this video to their sites. They are Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lezer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Elon Anava, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rav Daniel Asore, Nisan Baruch Black, David Sachs, Rabbi Michael Skobach, Jews for Judaism, Rabbi David Asher, and Rabbi Ron Ruvain. As well, if you've never checked out this channel before, I will have a link right below this video to my first video, and it explains what M.L.M for the soul means, what it stands for, and what I'm doing. So this coming week, we're coming up on the 9th of Av, which is called Tishah, which is a sad day, unfortunately, for really all the world, but especially for the Jewish nation, because we had two of our Beit HaMikdash were destroyed, and other things happened. That's when the spies, the Meraglim happened. So there's a lot of things that happened around that time that were very sad. So I didn't think about doing this topic till I looked at what I have here is the complete Tisha B'Av service from Artscroll, and this is their pocket size, and I will have a link below to Artscroll. They have a lot of good information, and I've done that from other machzorim, you know, for the holidays, the high holidays, and also for Shabbos. So there's quite a lot of information in the beginning, an overview. And so what I'm going to do, even though Tisha B'Av will pass, this will be a 3-part video on insights and inspirations for Tisha B'Av, but it's always applicable, so we can always learn from it. So first I'm going to start with the editor's preface, which is Rabbi Menachem Davis, because it's very interesting what he says here. And then I'm going to get into some of the overview and split it up into a couple parts, and then there's something else that's very interesting that I'll do after that. So here goes. There are a mere 6 weeks between Tisha B'Av, when we recite Kinnis, which is the lamentations over the destruction of the holy temples, and the week before Rosh Hashanah, when we begin Slichas, which are the prayers for forgiveness recited before and during the Yamim Noraim, the days of awe. The proximity brings into focus a startling contrast between the two sets of prayers. While the context, structure, and language of the Kinnis and Slichas are notably similar, written by many of the same authors, nevertheless, Kinnis seems to be lacking an essential feature that is found in Slichas, the recitation of the 13 attributes of mercy, which, while these are the keystone prayers of Slichas, their glaring absence in Kinnis demands an explanation. The answer, I believe, lies in our focusing either on the past or on the future. Kinnis and Tisha B'Av concentrate on the past, on the awareness and appreciation of our loss, what we once had, what we once were, and what has become of it all, and how our failings were the cause of these tragedies. The goal of all of our recitations on Tisha B'Av is to arrive at the feeling of Meito Mutal Lefanav. The corpse of his dead dear one is lying on the ground before him. The burial has not yet hidden the corpse from sight. We see it and we are touched by it. It overwhelms us with grief. We cannot be comforted. We cannot be consoled. Consolation is for some time in the future, when the wounds are no longer as fresh and as raw. Slichas and the days of awe are primarily future-oriented. We pray for a good new year, for forgiveness and atonement, so that the sins and failings of the past do not hold us back and drag us down. The promise of the 13 attributes of mercy is encouraging, replete with potential. With sincere repentance, we can hope to be granted another year. But why are the two, Kinnis and Slichas, so close together? An observation by Rav Shimshon Pinkus, Zatzal, may provide the answer. He points to the contrast between Noach and Mordechai. The Midrash places the onus for the flood on Noach. It is called Noach's flood. That's called Mei Noach, right? Why? It was not he who was wicked and evil, but as the Midrash quoted by Rashi in Bereshis states, Noach was a person of insufficient faith. He did not truly believe that the flood would come. Even though he spent 120 years building the ark, in the face of ridicule and scorn, he did not believe that Hashem would actually destroy the world. And therefore he did not pray to prevent what might not come. So he didn't do that. You know, that was his fault, right? So however, when Mordechai saw the decree to destroy, to murder, and to exterminate all the Jews, he did not rationalize that Persia was a civilized nation, or that relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another place. Mordechai did believe that the evil decree would be carried out unless he and all the Jews mobilized in prayer. believing fully that their lives depended on their actions. And so Mordechai cried a loud and bitter cry and saw to it that sackcloth and ashes were spread out for the masses. Though through Kinnis and Tisha B'Av, we see that the threat of annihilation is real. It has happened in the past, and if we are complacent and cavalier about the threats the Jewish people face, that can chas v'shalom happen in the future. We must cry on Tisha B'Av until we no longer have tears to cry. So that when we say Slichos, we will do so with the recognition that the weapons of mass destruction are pointed at us, and there is no one on whom we can count to save us other than our Father who is in heaven. Like it's the expression is Ein al mi l'smoch el al avinu b'shamayim. There's no one else to rely on. So we have to do that. Crying can be hard sometimes, but when you read through the Kinnis, the Lamentations, and you might want to read them, in English if the Hebrew's not so clear to you. And this one that I have is an interlinear. So what it has is it has the English right below the Hebrew, if you could see that on the same page. So if you have a hard time, and then there's a commentary in the bottom. I know for me in the past, it's very hard to get through them all, even between the night, when we start at night and the next day. It's just almost impossible, because I also like to read the commentary, and if you do all that too, you're not going to be able to get through all of them, so I'll do my best. So studying every nuance of every word of the Kinnis, trying to make clear and real, let me see if I'm in the right place. Okay, I'm done with that. Then there was just some acknowledgement, so I don't need to continue with that. So now I'm going to go to the overview. So this is the overview. It's Kinnis, a trail of tears, from tragedy to triumph. So part 1 is tears, the essence of the soul. So I'm just going to read in the English what Rabbi Yochanan said. Rabbi Yochanan said that this day, this is from Tanis 29a, this day when the spies returned to deliver their derogatory report about Eretz Yisrael was Tisha B'Av Eve. That's what I was mentioning earlier. The Holy One, blessed is he, said, "You wept in vain. I will establish this date for you as a time of real weeping for all generations." So because they did it that way and they were crying over it, so it's Midah K'neged Midah, measure for measure. Hashem made it into something, action, reaction, cause, effect. That's how things work. So tears are uniquely suited to Tisha B'Av. Special dates in the Jewish calendar have their own tangible means to convey their essence. Rosh Hashanah has its shofar, Pesach has its matzah, and so on. The mitzvah of Tisha B'Av is tears. On the afternoon before Tisha B'Av, the Chassam Sofer will already be sobbing bitterly in anticipation of this day of misfortune. He collected every tear in a cup, and when he ate his final meal before the fast, he would dip his bread into his tears and into ashes as a sign of intense mourning. I guess this is true. I don't know. It doesn't say here proof, but that's pretty amazing. Thus would he fulfill the verse: Ki efer kalechem achalti v'shikuvai bevechi masachti. For I have eaten ashes like bread and mixed my drink with tears. That's from Tehillim. What is the significance of tears? Real tears, meaningful tears that are shed out of deep and sincere feelings, are the most genuine expression of the essence of the human personality. Rav Hirsch describes tears as the sweat of the soul. When man is honestly moved or agitated, he sheds tears. It could be for anything. I've read things sometimes, on the internet, something so touching, and you just, you start bawling, your eyes start getting wet. So the Maharal explains that when the Jews were redeemed from Egypt, Hashem was actually submitting them to a new process of creation, whereby a new national entity called Israel, or Yisrael, was being fashioned. A nation whose collective soul would be inextricably bound up with the teachings of the Torah, with the land of the Torah, Eretz Yisrael. When the Jewish people accepted the negative reports of the spies, however, they dramatically transformed their essential nature and ripped the land of Israel out of the core of their being. So that was a big mistake, right? They didn't merely accept the spies' report intellectually, rather they shed real tears. Thereby they expressed the depths of their souls and antipathy for Eretz Yisrael, and thereby they severed their soul bond with the Holy Land. So by doing that, that's what they caused. In order to forge a new soul bond with the holy soil, the same tears that once dissolved our link to the land of Israel must now be shed in love and yearning for our homeland. Once our souls are merged with the land, the return of our bodies will follow. So that's what it's saying, why tears are the essence of the soul. So now part 2 is called My Soul Weeps in Secret. So it says, B'mistarim tivkeh nafshi mipnei geva. My soul shall weep in secrecy for your pride. That's from Yirmiyah. This teaches that Hashem has a concealed place called Mistarim, secrecy, where he weeps over the pride of Israel that was stripped from them and given to the nations of the world. Some say that Hashem weeps over the divine glory which has been concealed from this world. And just so you know, it's not a physical thing, it's spiritual that we can't understand, because Hashem doesn't have any kind of physical attributes or anything. There's no shape, color, form, size, whatever. There's nothing. It's just an energy. So when it says that, it's for our purposes of understanding that like maybe there's a sadness, even though Hashem's never sad over everything. Everything is perfect for Him. But how can we say Hashem weeps? We are not told that Oz v'chedva b'mkomo, strength and rejoicing are in His presence. That's from Divrei Hayamim. No, this is not a contradiction. On the inside, in secret, Hashem weeps. On the outside, He appears to rejoice. That's from Chagiga. So the Maharal, this section is called, kind of like a subsection, it's called Perceiving the Real Loss. Okay. The Maharal reveals the location of Hashem's secret hideaways within the soul of every Jew. For the soul is really an aspect of Hashem concealed within man, and that fundamental soul of man cries incessantly over the destruction of the temple. The average person is not in touch with his inner soul, with his real self, so he is oblivious to its weeping. The average person is aware only of his external facade, the outer world of the body, where everything appears to be fine and growing better, with abundant strength and rejoicing. So it's that's why, I'm talking to you physically, but it's really the soul. The soul is the essence, So the Hasidic master, Rabbi Yunim of Pesischa, illustrated this concept with a parable of a king who amassed tremendous treasures and hid them in a secret storage room deep inside his palace. One day the palace caught fire and burned down to the ground. The entire nation and the royal court cried over the loss of the beautiful palace, but the king cried more bitterly than any of them, for he alone knew the true extent of the loss. Only he knew of the enormous hidden treasure that went up in smoke, so no one else knew, only him. Similarly, a person who is out of touch with his inner soul hardly appreciates the spiritual loss suffered with the temple's destruction. So if you're not connected in that way, then you don't have any feeling for it. So Rab Elia Lopian Zatzal illustrated this with the following incident. Rav Moshe Isser Lister Ramah wrote in Torah's Ha'olah that when King Nebuchadnezzar came to destroy the first temple, the Greek philosopher Plato accompanied him. After the destruction, Plato met the prophet Yirmiyah near the Temple Mount, weeping and wailing bitterly over the temple ruins. Plato asked him two questions. One, behold, you are the preeminent sage in Israel. Is it befitting a man of your intellectual stature to cry for a building, which is really no more than a pile of sticks and stones? That's how he thought it was. Number two, this building is already in ruins. What good will your tears do now? Why cry over the past? So Yirmiyah responded, Plato, as a world-renowned philosopher, you surely have many perplexing questions. The Greek recited his long list of complicated problems. Humbly and quietly, Yirmiyah solved them all in few brief sentences. Plato was dumbfounded. I can't believe that any mortal man can be so wise. So Yirmiyah pointed sadly to the temple ruins and said, all this profound wisdom I derived from those sticks and stones, and that is why I am crying. As for your second question, why do I cry over the past? This I cannot tell you because you will not be able to understand the answer. So that's maybe because he wasn't Jewish, I don't know. I guess maybe that's why he doesn't have that neshama, that feeling, right? So Rav Elia Lopian, related to that, Rav Simcha Zissel of Kelm explained Yirmiyah's answer. Our tears are not for the past, rather we cry for the future, because even though all the gateways to heaven were sealed at the time of the Churban, the destruction, the gateway of tears always remains open. That's from Brachos. It says that. Every tear we shed is collected in heaven and contributes to the reconstruction of the next temple. This concept, which is so simple for any Jew to understand, is beyond the comprehension of a rational, world-renowned Plato. So that's the reason why I said differently, but that's the reason why. So that's why people say when they cry sometimes for someone and beg for mercy for whatever situation they're going through, and their prayers aren't answered, but Hashem collects those tears, so they're used for future. They're not just, nothing goes unanswered. Okay, and then the next subcategory is called Transcending Sadness. So Yirmiyah began our trail of tears 25 centuries ago. Since then, tragically, the trail has been enlarged into an expanding stream, a mighty river, a surging torrent, and the tears continue to flow even in our days. Yirmiyah poured all of his tears into Eicha, which is the Book of Lamentations, wherein he painfully predicted the travails of his tormented people. In his commentary to the Rambam, Yad HaMelech asks, the rule is that our holy scriptures, the Tanakh, must be written by a proven prophet while he's under the influence and inspiration of Ruach HaKodesh, which is the divine spirit. So the Talmud of Shabbos 30b clearly teaches, however, that this Holy Spirit cannot envelop a person while he is in a state of sorrow, because it settles only on a person whose spirit enjoys the ecstasy of performing a mitzvah. If so, how could Yirmiyah write the Book of Lamentation while he was shrouded in mourning? Good question, right? So Yad HaMelech explains that the spirit of prophecy rested upon men of greatness who demonstrated nobility of character and generosity of spirit. Ordinarily, people who wallow in self-pity and are consumed by their personal woes lead narrow, self-centered lives and are remote from the qualities of a prophet. Conversely, people who exalt in performing Hashem's commandments display a purity of character. But there is another proof of sterling character, one that is valid even in the vale of tears. Yirmiyah was not sad about himself or his plight. His personal situation concerned him not at all. Rather, his tears were over the miserable plight of his fellow Jews, and over the pain of Hashem's presence, which had been forced into exile. Consequently, Yirmiyah's sorrow proved the greatness of his selfless personality, thus making him fit for prophetic inspiration. Because he wasn't wallowing in his own sorrow, it was for for his people. Then it was okay. So this will be the final section for today. It's called part 3. It's called "A Tear Is Never Wasted," and I did kind of allude to that just before. So probably it's going to talk about that as well here. So Rabbi Eliezer said, since the day the temple was destroyed, the heavenly gates of prayer have been shut, as it is written. Though I cry out and I plead, he shuts out my prayer. That's from Lamentations. Nevertheless, the gates of tears have not been sealed, as it is written. Hear my prayer, Hashem. Listen to my outcry. Be not mute to my tears. Listen to Tehillim and Brachos. So this subcategory is called Power of Tears. The question has been asked, if the gates of tears are never locked, why did Hashem make them in the first place? So the Gerrer Rebbe explained that although sincere tears always gain admission above, the gates are needed to shut out false tears, which are abominable to Hashem. We might add that although these gates are never locked, their closing can be opened only as far as the flow of tears will push them. Indeed, Ya'aros Devash observes that the numerical value of Bechi, weeping, equals that of Leib. Interesting enough, that is. The letters, the numerical value, when you add up the Bet, Chaf, and Yud, and then you add up the Lam and the Bet, they both equal to the same thing. Equal that of Leib, which is heart. Because tears are meaningful only if they are sincere expressions of the heart. Such tears are truly priceless. So Rabbi Aryeh Levin of Yerushalayim was a man of rare compassion and sensitivity. Once a distraught, recently widowed woman came to his home and cried uncontrollably. All his efforts to offer solace were to no avail. Until the widow said, Rabbi, I will accept your words of consolation on one condition. Please tell me what happened to all of my tears. I prayed and prayed for my late husband. I recited chapter after chapter of Tehillim and shed thousands upon thousands of tears. My very soul flowed into those tears. Were they all wasted? Gently, Rav Aryeh explained, after 120 years, when you will leave this world and ascend to the heavenly tribunal, you will see how meaningful and precious your tears were. That's what I was alluding to previously. You will discover that Hashem himself gathered them in and counted every single teardrop and treasured it like a priceless gem. And you will discover that whenever some harsh and evil decree was looming over the Jewish people, one of your tears came and washed the evil away, making it null and void. Even one sincere tear is a source of salvation. So you see how Hashem saves him up for future. If he doesn't use it now, there's some other purpose it'll be used for better. Nobody knows when. It could be at any time. Hearing this, the woman burst into a fresh flow of tears, not tears of sorrow and grief, but tears of courage and hope. Sometime later, she came back to Rav Aryeh and said, Rabbi, you remember what you told me? Please tell me again. And she wanted to hear it again, I guess to re-emphasize it. Okay, next subcategory is called For the Nation's Sake. The Jew sheds tears for his personal concerns, does so as an external physical person. Deep inside the secret recesses of his soul, however, the godly portion within him cries over one thing only, the loss of the divine presence. For that is the source of all other tragedies and the underlying reason for Jewish suffering. Our personal suffering is a direct offshoot of the collective national suffering of the Jewish people in exile. The Midrash, Echar Rabashi, and also Sanhedrin, tells of a widow in Rabban Gamliel's neighborhood who would weep bitterly over her plight. When Rabban Gamliel heard her cries in the night, he would arise and cry over the destruction of the temple and the Jewish exile. Rav Mordechai Gifter explains that Rabban Gamliel knew that her personal woes were an outgrowth of Israel's general misfortune. When Israel is delivered collectively, all personal problems will be resolved as well. Amen. May it happen very soon and speedily in our days. For many years, Rabbi Yoel Sirkis, known as the Bach, could not arrange for the publication of Beis Chadash, his commentary on the Torah Shulchan Aruch. Whenever it was about to go to print, an unforeseen circumstance was arrived and delayed the printing. After many years of frustration, the Bach was heartbroken. One midnight, as he grieved over his personal misfortune, he stopped and berated himself. How selfish of me to weep over my personal problems, when there is a far greater tragedy in the world, the calamity of Israel in exile. So he took off his shoes like a mourner and recited Tikkun Chatzot, which is the midnight prayer for the redemption of Israel. And women don't do that. I found out it's only for men to do. Actually, years ago I was doing it not knowing, and then I asked somebody, and they said it's not. A woman doesn't do that. Okay. Eventually, fatigue overcame the Bach, and he fell asleep. A heavenly voice addressed him in a dream. Know that for many years they have been displeased with you in heaven. because he became so engrossed in writing Beis Chadash that he neglected the recitation of Tikkun Chatzot. Look at that. As great as Torah study is, one must never lose sight of the plight of the Jewish people. Tonight, for the first time in years, you cried over the collective misery of Hashem and Israel. So you have regained favor in heaven. Look at that. And he was a great person, the Bach. I mean, come on, we can never compare to people like that. But still, they're looked at more strictly, like everything is judged precisely more than our generation. Okay, so the next subcategory that will finish this section up is called Heart of Our Nation. So today's Yerushalayim is a magnificent urban complex replete with every type of religious institution necessary for Torah living. With its hundreds upon hundreds of synagogues, yeshivos, kollel, mikvos, charity funds, etc. The rebuilt Yerushalayim of our times appears to adequately serve the spiritual needs of her devout citizens. Much impressed by appearances, the casual, uninformed observer might well have reason to ask, why do we continue to plead so desperately for Yerushalayim to be rebuilt? True, we have no temple and we cannot sacrifice karbanos, the sacrifices they call karbanos, but we can hardly say that the holy city still lays in ruins. This question can be answered with an analogy to the patient who receives a heart transplant. The patient is up and around and appears to be healthy, but he is full of anxiety lest his new heart be rejected or malfunction. He is extremely vulnerable to infection and distressingly susceptible to unexpected side effects. As advanced as technology may be, the new heart is not his own. So again, when you're, that's, from the physical, we're talking about the spiritual, but yeah, if your body is given like a transplant or a blood transfusion from someone else, the body has to accept it. So there's that, trepidation or like, kind of you're unsure, you're kind of like anxious about it. So it makes sense, right? So similarly, the heart of mankind in general, and the Jews in particular in the Beis HaMikdash is, let me start that again. Similarly, the heart of mankind in general, and the Jews in particular, is the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple. I'm just saying that that's like our heart. In that location, Adam was created, and there Hashem breathed life into his nostrils. So it's right there where the Beis HaMikdash was. Isn't that amazing? Hashem continued to pump vitality into mankind through the temple until it was destroyed. Now we are still maintained, but it is not the same. We are weak and fragile, susceptible to spiritual and moral contamination and disease. We are easily worn out. The whole system can collapse at any time. And Hashem Yerachem, the world that we live in, there's so much tumah, to get away from it, you have to keep infusing yourselves with holiness, with the ruchnias. It's like, you got to constantly do it. Men, women, children, everyone. It's not, left for just one population. It's everyone has to do it if they want to overcome what they see and what's going on in the world. So the temple and the holy city are the heart of our nation. When they were destroyed, we suffered a national cardiac arrest, so to speak. If we are crippled as a nation, how can any individual be fully healthy? Only when Yerushalayim is rebuilt will Israel be healed. As King David said, the builder of Yerushalayim is Hashem. He will gather in the outcasts of Israel. He is the healer of the brokenhearted and the one who binds up their sorrows, and to heal them. So that's a perfect closing to say that as King David wished that in Tehillim, I wish that as well, that we, through all that we do and all the tears that we shed and everything that we do for Hashem and do His Ratzon, that we will merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days and the rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beis HaMikdash. Amen. And also I want to say that I hope that this will be a meaningful fast for everyone, and that it'll be the last one, and we will turn it into a joyous and celebratory day with the coming of Mashiach. Amen. And thanks for watching.